Also, I was muted. Classic mistake. Just noticed. Should be all right now. Anyone out there? Hey, Zalan. Good to have you as always. All right. Let's give it a while until let's see if someone else shows up. If not, we'll jump straight into the topic that you proposed, which is making money as a front-end developer. It's a great topic, by the way. There's a lot of things that we can talk about this, and I realize that a lot of it is not necessarily just about front-end. It's about, like, I guess, getting a development job in general. So it's a great topic. Thanks for coming up with that. Is there anything else that you would like to ask before we get started on the topic? I wanted to find the post about the why React context is not really suitable for state management, but I wasn't able to find it. And to be honest, I should spend a bit more time looking for it. But I will find it and I will get back to you on that because honestly, that's also something I took for granted because it's sort of like knowledge that was like flying around, saying that well, just stuff that you read online saying that you shouldn't be using such a thing for like using context for state management. I just took it at face value. I didn't really look into does it really make sense. So it's a good thing to dive into, I think. All right. Okay, well, I guess the others might join eventually or later or never. You never know. So let's jump straight into making money as a front-end developer. Um, Let me try to bring I forget what this thing is called now. Let me try to bring up some small text editor online so that I can put some notes up. Xcali Draw is what it's called. Yep. So I will actually, since this is the first time I'm trying something like this, I'm gonna try writing some notes as we go along, which because generally writing also helps me sort of think or plan things out. So I will try to write some notes down as we go, just to get everything a bit clear for myself. Right. So Salan, if you can tell me like what your current situation is, like are you also working at a company right now, or are you looking to start working somewhere, or are you looking to start something of your own? I believe you mentioned that you were working on a game, if I'm mistaken, or you used to be in game dev, or you're looking getting into game dev. I remember something like this. Let me know. Okay. So yeah, exactly. Okay. Yeah, it's a space that is kind of familiar to me as well because up until recently I was working on in Wargaming, which is the company that builds World of Tanks. So I was not working a lot on the graphics or the engine side of the game. I was mostly working on the game UI. So it's a really interesting thing where the game of I think the game of most modern PC games, the UI of most modern PC games is actually built with web technology, with React and so on. So that's really interesting. And that's what brought me to the space because the guys at Wargaming in Prague, they wanted someone who was familiar with web development to help them out with their UI. So that's why they brought me in. And yeah, we jumped straight into building UI for the game. One of the things that I'm quite Like it's maybe my curse as well. It's thanks daily quest. It's probably one of the most complicated pieces of code that I've written in my life, in a way. Uh, it doesn't seem that way for sure, because it seems so simple. But this small, let me see if I can just get a photo of it real quick just to give you an idea. Yeah, so this thing over here is something that I worked on. And this thing I think is, I built it from scratch mostly. So all of this, what makes it super complicated? I mean, at the surface, it looks like a list of three things, but then you get into it and you have all these animations and you have all these different states on which it behaves. In general, that was one of the interesting things I found about like doing this UI with like doing game UIs versus building stuff for the web, is that there's so much more graphics. It looks and behaves a lot more different. So it's just like it's a bit of a shift going from building something that looks like a website to building something that actually is in game. And there's so many animations, there's so many sounds that you need to manage. So this was something I worked on, and yeah, I think, to be honest with you, I feel like it's now I know how I could have done it a lot better, because at the time I was new and I didn't know about how to tackle this so well. So my job on this was maybe not so great, but yeah, a bit of a aside, just to just to say that yeah, I've been around web tech a little bit as well. So yeah, let's get into it. So making money as a front-end dev. Right. So what is there anything that you would like me to start with, or can I just go at it in the order you mentioned? Because you mentioned just everything around freelancing or getting hired or different types of companies. Are you looking for a job right now? Are you trying to find a position as a developer, or are you trying to start maybe freelancing, for example? All right, sure. I can go over like some of the things that I thought about when I thought about this topic. I have a few notes, but nothing so concrete. So we will improvise as we go on. As always, feel free to drop in, just interrupt me with any questions. I'll try my best to keep an eye on it. There is a setting I found in YouTube called ultra low latency, which apparently reduces the delay between the stream and the chat. So hopefully that helps me respond to you faster. All right, so I primarily want to build my own web apps, but I like to have working slash freelancing as a plan B. All right, okay, so then we can start off in that direction, because like if you're talking about employment, there's a lot of stuff about employment, about getting hired, about finding jobs, about your CV and all this stuff that I can talk about. But since you are more interested in like starting off on your own, uh, or freelancing, let's start by that, because that's actually something that I'm doing right now. You could say that maybe I'm not the most successful at it yet, but it's been a year now since I started. Actually, I quit my job at Wargaming last year, end of last year, and I quit with a similar idea. I quit with the idea that hey, I will try to build something on my own and try to make money from it. But now, a year later, I know that this is not as simple as it sounds by any means. It's a lot of there's a lot of things I learned. So I will try to share as much of what I know as possible. I still can't give you like, I don't know, a 100% formula because I haven't figured it out myself. But maybe it will give you some ideas. So let's jump straight into it. So building your own thing. So the first thing I thought about when it comes to building your own thing is that I think all of us, we tend to go a bit too overboard. imagining that you have to like build an entire app or build an entire, I don't know, website, a whole service. But in reality, I think the simplest thing to build is actually like very small things like templates, plugins, just simple things, templates, plugins. What else? Then there are also like very interesting spaces, like for example, integrations. Integrations are like things that you can plug into an existing platform. For example, what am I thinking about? For example, let's say chatbots, right? So Slack, for example, seems like my internet is quite bad today, which is unfortunate. But yeah, maybe Slack is not exactly what I'm looking for. Another option for sure is like all these app marketplaces, not even app marketplaces, but like integration marketplaces. Things like, what is a good integration mark? Like not Integra market, Make. Is it actually make.com? I'm not sure if they have a .com there. Yeah, they have a .com. So Make and all these other platforms, for example, let you build your own integrations, which you can add, and then you can sort of charge. So it's these marketplaces that have their own platform, but they allow you to build your own apps so that you can expand their own platform. So Slack also, I think, has Slack has support for paid Slack apps, as they call it. Yeah. So you have like these. I believe some of these are paid, for example, or you can definitely even if it's not paid, you can put it in there and then you can sort of charge for it later, or build your own charging system around it. But yeah, it definitely. So there's the pricing free, so you can have paid. I'm not sure about Discord. Maybe Discord also has like paid. I guess maybe not Discord. But even that integration, I'd say, is a bit too heavy, because integrations still involve you to do a lot more work, because you have to build a functioning application that works on that platform, and that takes some time. The reason actually why I would say starting with simple things is a good idea is because it's simple. It doesn't take you much time to do it compared to, let's say, building an app. And that's the other thing which I've learned, which I will maybe share, is that yeah, building your own thing takes time, and a lot of time, I'd say, because at least when I went into it, I thought, hey, I can put something together in a couple of weeks, months, more like weeks, maybe like in about a month or two, I'll be able to put something together, and that will be it. But it's not, because you think about an app and then everything around the app, which is like login, or like rather authentication. Then you have everything around user accounts, everything around payments, especially. All of these things take a lot of time to build. And this is not to say you also need to do marketing. You need to have a landing page. Then maybe you need to run ads. Then you need to maybe like promote it. So all of these take a lot of time, a lot more time than you would ever think. So when you start with a simple thing like a template or a plugin that you can just sell on an existing marketplace, it's much faster because all of that is set up for you. Like you don't have to do any of this stuff. You just build a small thing. I mean, the people who do this thing, who run the marketplace, will take a cut, but it's still maybe worth it rather than spending the time on this initially. So the most popular, I think, when you say templates, the most popular thing that comes to mind is like WordPress. And like WordPress has a whole bunch of stuff around themes and templates. I mean, I'm pretty sure I don't need to go into this, but like things like Theme Forest, Envato even. These are like, yeah, the platform marketplaces for WordPress. I mean, but then again, you would say, hey, WordPress is kind of, not so nice to work with. It's old school. But you need to remember that WordPress is still being used by a lot of people. And even if not WordPress, you can look into making themes for other places. For example, WordPress is saturated, yes, you could say, but there's still space. Like that's the other thing. Nothing has no competition, right? Everything is saturated. Here's the problem you have: either you go into a space that you has a lot of players in it, which means that people want it, and that means it's an established. It's what you call a blue ocean. It's an area where things are well defined. Not really well defined, but set up. There's a lot of players. There's a lot of customers. So it's then your issue becomes you have to stand out. Nothing has no competition. Let's say either you have some place that is crowded, which means there's lots of demand and also lots of supply, and you need to stand out, or you go into a space that is empty or sparse, and there is less demand, and then you also need to try harder to be found. And so either way you go, you're gonna run into issues of like being discovered. Either it's just standing out or just being found in the first place, because it's people don't know about this yet. People don't know that such a thing exists. So because of that, it's harder to actually get into the space. Getting into the space is the wrong word. What I'm trying to say is basically either way, you're going to have a bit of a hard time. And WordPress might be a bit too crowded. WordPress is the best example that I think of, but there are a lot of, let's say, other marketplaces that are not so obvious. One of the others, for example, I think is like all these big company, big providers, big platforms have their own marketplace. Usually, a lot of them do, and you can just go into them and build integrations for those as well. Like for example, this is Salesforce, and I'm pretty sure. What else? What is this thing called? SAP. SAP Store, but I'm not sure whether there's. But yeah, SAP you might need to get certified and something like this. But everyone has marketplaces. Is all I'm trying to say. There are these like really niche spaces you can go into. What else? Nothing comes to my mind right now. But a lot of these spaces, when it comes to just, there's a lot you can do with just building small stuff, building templates, building plugins, whether it's for Slack, whether it's for WordPress. This is probably a better place to start because there is already a big demand and there's already all the infrastructure set up. So you don't need to do your own work to set it up or from scratch. The hard thing here is that you need to stand out. And in this case, I guess you really need to find something that is, you need to come up with something that people want. And that is the really hard part. Some advice that I've read about building or coming up with something is build for yourself, or not really build for yourself, but solve your own problems. So in this case, if you like, I assume that, yeah, you are a game dev, graphics programmer, and I am a front-end developer, previous UI programmers. But in general, we work with React, we work with front-end, so we are developers. And as developers, there are problems that we have. Like in the front-end space, you have all these problems around managing packages. Let me put that as an example, right? So example, front-end, right? Problems that front-end developers face, right? So problems that we have problems around managing dependencies. We have problems that we have to refactor all the time, factoring all the time. We have problems that our code is not tested because UI testing is hard. So these are problems that you yourself, by being yourself, face as in a certain role. So all of these problems, you can build stuff to solve these kind of problems. Not really solve, but at least help, at least aid in these kind of problems. Like the thing with these kind of problems, like managing dependencies, refactoring all the time, these are big problems. There is no simple solution to managing these. But then this is a starting point. You find this, and then you go deeper into it. You're like, okay, what can I do to sort of help with this? For example, there's managing dependencies, right? So one person, for example, thought, hey, it would really be useful if I can figure out how heavy a package is, or how like what is the cost of adding that to my projects. So they came up with this simple thing called bundle phobia. It's not called code bundle phobia, but just bundle phobia. Right? And this thing is a project that has probably several thousands of users, several hundreds of thousands even. And it's now being sponsored by DigitalOcean. So I believe that DigitalOcean is paying him a bit for also managing this, and also sponsors him to keep it running and to develop on it, to work on it. So you start with these like problems that people already have, and then you can solve it. And it's better to start with problems that you yourself face, because you are more capable of knowing those problems. As in, like, you are. The thing is, then you know for somewhat more, then you know with somewhat more certainty that the problem really exists. When you try to build something for audiences or people that are not you, or like, that are not, that you are not familiar with, then it's much easier to, let's say, imagine, like, let's say, hey, let's build a matchmaking app for lawyers, because why not? But then you discover that lawyers don't want matchmaking apps, that they hate this kind of stuff. So it's difficult to understand an audience that is not one that you belong to, or not one that you have close ties to. Does all of this make any sense? Is it sort of like what? Is it helpful at least? Because I might have gone a bit distracted. All right. Common advice. Okay. Yeah, well, this is probably where I learned all of this stuff from as well, right? So let me try to go at it on a different approach. Okay. Because it seems like you are quite familiar with all this kind of stuff already, which is, about building your own thing, about starting, like at least in conceptual level, you are familiar with it. It seems like it, because if you watch the Indie Hackers podcast, I imagine that you are very familiar with it. So let's instead go into something else then. Like, I will let me try to do it in a reflective way, in an introspective way, to go about, the things that I've tried and how that went. Because I think this is the part that people sort of miss when it comes to like all these podcasts or whatever. They talk about, these are people who already made it, people who have already done something and they know what they're doing. And when you're starting out, you make a lot of mistakes. I did. So I think it's yeah, I think that maybe some of it might be helpful to you if you consider starting out. Exactly, right. And right now, yeah, so right now I'm still a person who is trying to make it. I haven't made it. So let me tell you about the things that I've tried and how that went. So I quit and I wanted to build something, right? So at first I was like, yes, I would also like, but then I realized that building something will take time. And then I was like, okay, I need to come up with something that makes me at least a little bit of money, right? So first, uh, at least a little bit of money. And I thought to myself, well, what are the things that can generate a little bit of money? So one thing I thought of was doing mentoring online. And for a while, I actually tried. I think that it should be there still. On there are a lot of these mentoring platforms that let you. Uh, oh, well, I'm showing up in all the other places except the place that I want to be found. Mentor. So initially I was trying this. I went on the site, I registered as a mentor. How it works is people post on the site saying, hey, I want some help with this kind of stuff. Can you help? And then there are a whole bunch of mentors on the platform. They go on and they bid. They're like, hey, I can help you, I can help you. And you bid on price and you bid with a pitch. You say, hey, I would like to do this kind of stuff. Um, so yeah. Hey Shrey, good to have you. Um, I'm trying to. We already started on the topic of making money as a front end dev. I will get back to your question once we are done with this topic for a bit. So, quick side question: are there mentors here who mentor with indie hacking / making a business? Not here, not on Code Mentor. I don't think so. Code Mentor only has things around programming. So you have all these, as you see, all these types of programming fields. What you're looking for is basically a business coach, or I don't know, a business coach, startup coach, and this kind of stuff. Uh, so, but this is like, or there are also people who do this free of charge. These are like, I don't know, startup academies or like, uh, yeah. So there are all these kind of other startup academies. I haven't looked into this so much, but I know that they sort of exist. There are also like these, startup incubators, but they sort of help you as well to learn about this kind of stuff. So it really varies. I think it depends on where you are, on your location, how you uh, yeah, what you want. But it's, in my opinion on this is that honestly you should just start. Like, the only thing I would do if you're gonna start building something on your own is do it on the side, like, because start something on your own on the side. Because that was one mistake that I did, is that I tried to do it full time. I quit my job and I was like, hey, I'm gonna do something immediately, and that never works, because if you are self-funded, you don't really have the money to like splurge and make something work immediately. So because and the reason I'm recommending this is because it takes time. It takes time to build it up. And usually it might take several years, to be honest. It's never like a quick fix. I don't think anyone has been able to do it in like a couple of months. Even if they did, this is another thing that I found difficult, is that you have to unlearn being a developer. Because when you're a developer and when you go into this building your own stuff, is that you still focus too much on development. You try to, because that's all you're familiar with. You spent most of your life working with code, and it's your habit. So you tend to, like, whatever you do, you try to make it, you tend to lean towards code, performance, optimization, when in reality it doesn't really matter initially. Matter a lot initially. So initially you just need something that just works. Something that just works, something that shows you know, that whatever you built, that something, so that you can bring it out there, show it to people and say, hey, I built this. Do you like it? Does it work for you? Does it help you? And for that, you don't need all of this about code, performance, optimization, none of it. You just need something that a person can click on and say, oh, okay, that sort of does what I wanted to do, but now I wanted to do this. And then, you know, like, you go on and you improve it. So you polish it, you make it better. So about going back to this, about what I tried. So I tried this mentoring online, and then I ran into the problems with doing freelancing, right? Because if you're trying to do freelancing, right, that is also like a super crowded space. There's a lot of people. And it's really difficult to stand out initially. And no matter what, so even if you like were to, so getting those initial jobs, initial tasks is really hard. What would really help is if you had like something to show that you know what you're doing, a portfolio of sorts. Portfolio or is what would help. Because initially when you're starting off on these platforms where the Code Mentor, like Code Mentor has like a very extensive platform for like references, for reviews. So you go to some mentor's profile, you see like everything they have done, like all the reviews they have got. And when you start off with all these freelancing platforms, whether it's Code Mentor, Code Mentor is not a freelancing platform, but it sort of works the same way. So you have all these reviews. So initially you have none of these. So it's really difficult to stand out. So this is where having something like a portfolio would help. And ideally, I think you should try to work on the portfolio before you try to go into freelancing, because otherwise you're gonna grind a lot of gears, just like trying to reach clients, trying to find clients. And that, in my opinion, is wasted time. I did that for a while as well. I tried to reach clients, and what I discovered is it's better to get, let's say, clients or customers to come to you than you go to them. So So, and the way you do this is by you have like a strong portfolio or a strong something to just demonstrate, okay, you know what you're doing, they can trust you. And it's more likely to bring people to you than otherwise. It's difficult with these things because all these platforms have their own built-in I don't reviews, all this stuff. So it's really difficult to fake it, or rather, I don't know, not even fake it, but get stuff on there on your own. So the start is really hard. And personally, I sort of gave up on this. I was like, I am not. This is, even if I go to do this, it will be really tough. Like, it will probably work, but I have to get past the initial phase, which will probably take about a half a year or so. And at the time, I didn't have this much time. I wanted to get something work much faster. So I sort of gave up on this, and then I moved on to trying a different thing, which is I moved on from this to the blog, which is what you guys might have seen, the front-end blog. So the front-end blog has a different idea. It was just, hey, try to write some posts that are helpful and then get people on there to maybe then help them out with some course or something at the end. And this is a very different thing. Now you're leaving like programming entirely. So it's I will, in a way, I also realize that I've maybe gone a lot from the topic, which is because right now we are entering more into like startups about, self-funded businesses, and this is like a bit far away from front-end specific, so it's generally around this is applicable to anyone. So let's try. I'll maybe try to bring the topic back closer to front end. Shrey, are you still here? Seems like he's not. Okay. Well, in that case, let's continue with it, because yeah, right now we are leaving the topic because it's not really specific to front end. It's more about being self-employed in general, maybe starting something on your own. And I tried the front-end blog. Initially, the idea was just to write some posts, get traffic, and then have have a course, then maybe have a paid course or book. And the thing with this as well is it takes time to build traffic. It takes a lot of time to get enough traffic that you can do the rest of this journey, let's say. So I am still in the first two stages of this, and so far I have to say it has worked surprisingly well. It's more than I thought, because initially in the first 1 or 2 months that I was trying this, there was no traffic, none. And I now have, I think, about 20 posts, I think. And the 20 posts, it's 25 maybe. And it's been about 7 months since. And since then, I now have about 1,000 views a month. Something like this, all through search. So it's a lot more. It is working. It's like this is otherwise traffic that you have to pay for. It's otherwise traffic that you either have to use advertising or something to get people to, and now you have it. All through just purely about just writing posts, which is a great thing. So maybe then I will add that to the list of things which I would recommend, is just uh, learning about SEO or keywords or just keywords. What I mean by this is before I started doing this kind of stuff, I had no idea that there were all these tools for figuring out uh, like what sort of content you should write about, what sort of things you should do. So this is something that also really changed how I work, because now, do you know what I mean when I say SEO or keywords, or do you know what I'm trying to get on here? Have you worked with maybe some kind of SEO tool? Okay, so what I mean by this is just, I think the best is if I can show it to you, but unfortunately I see. So what I mean is it is sort of like a superpower. You know what? I will show it to you. Like, we are leaving the scripts quite a lot, but well, we got no one else here, so I might as well do something that is interesting to you. So I will show you like the keyword search tool that I use, and you don't. It doesn't really need to be this one either. Well, you know what? We don't need this one. Let's go with the Google Keyword Planner, because that's hopefully Google, it will log me in, because I already have my Google logged in. All right. So the Google Keyword Planner is really not meant for like messing around. From what I see, it's like not so good at its own thing. But what you can effectively do is you can search around for topics, and then you can find out how popular something is. For example, like the app that I built, which is before lunch, right? It is a daily tracker, like a time planner, task planner kind of app. And before building it, I wanted to see whether there was a demand for this, right? Whether people actually looked or wanted something like day planners. So you would go here and then you would type in day planner, right? And you first of all immediately get to the idea that, okay, you have like 1,000 or so people looking for this kind of stuff, and then you also get all of these other things that people are searching for. So you can find out the other sort of like things in this space that they are interested in, that you can maybe build something for, maybe write something about. So learning about this, learning about about using these SEO tools, it's not really SEO anymore. This is more like keyword tools or keyword research. I will show you my actual tool, because this, as I say, the Google one is not so effective. It just shows you like a very rough rough idea of like some of the other things that people might be looking for based on what you type in. So I will try to see the other one. So the one I use is this. There's dozens of these things, right? And so this is not like advice or I have to log in. Give me a second. Continue. Save. Search. Yeah, I'll just bring this over here. All right, there we go. So in this case, when I search for daily planner, I see that there's quite some people searching for it, but more importantly, I also see all the other things that they're searching around these keywords. So it gives you a good idea of like what people are struggling with, or like how people would go about searching something. It's also a great way, I think, to just to verify if you found a problem. Like I said before, if you find one of these problems that you face, let's say refactoring, so you can look at this and then say, hey, how many other people like struggle with the same thing? Like how many of them are also looking for something similar? Like how many of them are trying to solve that problem? So you can like, okay, let's say how to plan my day better. Like this is how people would search on Google. Right? And no one searches for this apparently, but by searching for this, I found that okay, people are more searching for like timetable for daily routine or something like this. So it really gives you a better idea of what people are searching for. It gives you like none of these numbers are gonna be accurate at all. Like these volume numbers, they are good in terms of like relative sense. So you know that okay, this is in the thousands and this is in the tens, which means nothing. So it's good in a relative sense. It's never like an absolute truth, but it definitely helps you figure out whether a problem is not just you and it's more people. And it helps you narrow down. It helps you find how people search for it, so that you can actually create sites, set up content that people can then find. And it's very good when you're starting out on your own, because you probably, that's the other thing, when you're starting out on your own, you need to do the promotion yourself as well. You have to do all the marketing yourself. It's not SEO and keyword tools. It's because it helps you figure out demand, helps you figure out concrete problems that users face. So this is also a great way that you can find something really specific. Like even if you're gonna go with something like building a WordPress theme or a plugin, you search for, let's say, WordPress, I don't know, SEO, and then you find like what all the people are searching about WordPress SEO. So then maybe you find that people struggle with, okay, this very specific thing in WordPress SEO. So then you can build something for it, and then you also have proof that someone is looking for something like this and will probably find the thing that you built in the end. Because this is the other thing that is really hard, is discoverability. It's like making yourself known, making yourself well known. And the best way I found to do so far is through basically content, which is just writing about something and then getting have people coming to you for it. Is any of this helpful? Is any of it what? Well, basically, is any of it helpful? All right. And yeah, so to move back to my story, I guess, is after the front end blog, so the front end blog is still ongoing. It's still something that I have, and it's still something that I will keep doing for a while. So after that, I was sort of maybe I really wanted to try building something, because that's why I quit the job in the first place, right? And I feel bad that okay, it's now been a few months and I haven't actually built anything. And all these people, when I left my work, they were like, hey man, and every time I ran into them, like they were like, hey man, how's the business, like, because everyone, when you tell them that you're leaving your job to go start something of your own, they expect that you have like a clear idea of what you're going to do. Then they come back to you saying, hey man, I'm making millions now, like, so that you can come back and sort of tell them, hey, your life is so much better now than it used to be. But the reality is, when you start something like this, you have no idea what you're doing, and for a long time you're just trying all sorts of different things. You're moving around. This live stream is one of these things. For example, it's something that I'm trying out. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, I really need to figure out a way to get more people onto this. But for now, I'm just trying to get more comfortable just speaking on camera, getting all these technical issues worked out, because I still don't have a battery for my camera. I still gonna be in the darkness pretty soon, unless I go and turn off the light, which I will do this time. But yeah, it's difficult, and this is something that is a bit difficult, is when everyone sort of expects you to have a job all the time, because that's what they know. And when you tell them that you are not doing anything, you're not trying to earn money even for a while, and that you are experimenting, they look at you kind of weird. They're like, okay, that doesn't compute. They're very confused, right? So this is something you have to get used to, which is like answering these questions of, hey, what do you do now? Yes, well, I tried this and it amounted to nothing. So it's well, I've lost myself again. Where was I? What was I talking about? Yeah, so about the app that I built, right? So that is actually, there's a long story behind the app that I built. I did exactly what all these, Indie Hacker podcasts and all these things told me to do. I solved a problem that I faced, because for a long time I really struggled to just do things consistently for a over a long period of time. Like I would be like, hey, I want to start going to the gym, but then I would not do that. So I wanted to just have something to help me be more consistent, and this is like a super crowded space. If you it's I learned the most specific term for this is a habit tracker or a habit planner, and there are a lot of these things. There's thousands of these things, and then there is also like other things, for example, like task planning, right? And now you go a bit towards more corporate solutions, a bit more towards like project planners, like this Microsoft Planner, Trello, of course. So this is a very crowded space. But even in that crowded space, I tried a lot of things and I just couldn't find anything that worked. Sorry, so I thought, hey, let me go build it myself, right? So I went and I built it. And I built a simple app originally. It was nothing like what it used to be now, what it is now. And it really helped. It helped me be more consistent, because since I built it for myself, I built it exactly thinking, okay, this might work for me. This is how I would like to do it. So it helped me. So then I'm like, okay, now it's missing all these things. So let me add these things. So I iterated on that and I built another version that had a bit more things, and that was still missing stuff. So I added more stuff and I added more stuff. And honestly, I actually started working on that app 2 years ago. It was something completely different, and now it ended up what you see on the site. So that project was always running in a way. It was not something I explicitly started. When I quit my job, I was thinking, yes, I can quit and then build this and then try to sell it. Because at that time, that app still existed, but nowhere close to being released, nowhere close to, being charged for. But I was still thinking, hey, I can do this. So now that I had the time, I was like, well, I will give it a try. I will actually push it out, bring it to a level where I can actually show it to people, actually get people trying it out. And this is where I learned firsthand the problem of, like building the platform, like, because earlier none of this stuff mattered. None of this, you didn't need any of this stuff. So because of that, the app didn't have anything like this. And because I'm the developer, I could just jump into the database and change it. So I didn't have, some features weren't there because I could just manipulate the data, manipulate the app however I wanted. So now going from there to something that a person could use, it's a long journey. It took me about a month or maybe a bit more to, first of all, there was a really bad UI. I had it, like, I would argue that our UI is still kind of bad, but back then it was even worse. It was like almost like a wireframe, if you know it. It's like gray and black, black and white, because I didn't care. I just wanted it to run. I didn't care how it looked like. So it basically looked like something from the from the 1990s. And so it looked like crap. So I had to spend quite some time making it look at least decent, not even if not amazing. So that took time. Then I had to build all the user features and then make it self managing. I made a mistake here because when I built the app, I went with a tech stack that is very specific. I went with a combination of CouchDB. Where's this? Right. So CouchDB is something that not a lot of people know about at all. It's really cool. I really like it, and I probably will continue to use it. But what makes CouchDB so special is how it works. It allows you to build so-called offline first apps. Offline first apps are just apps that work off first. They work offline, but this CouchDB sort of takes it a bit further because it your database lives in your browser. Not CouchDB. That specific thing is called PouchDB. It works together with CouchDB. Yeah. So it was and the reason I went with this is because in the earlier versions of the app that I had, I used something that was, I mean, I went with Parse. The earlier versions of the app were built with something called Parse. Parse platform. So Parse is a something like Supabase, but it's sort of like, you could say, the OG Supabase in a way. This existed much before, much earlier than Supabase and all of it, and it does pretty much the same thing. It's a low code, I guess. I'm not sure whether low code is used to describe stuff like this. But anyways, it's a small platform similar to Firebase that gives you all the stuff you need to build the app, like a database, authentication, synchronization. So you don't really need a backend as such. You set up Parse somewhere on a backend, and then you can interact with it directly. So originally when I built the app, I used Parse, and I used it together with something called Back4App. And yeah, Back4App was like a hosted instance of Parse. So it just lets you use Parse without setting up your own servers. You just sign up and they have a free tier, and you can just start building stuff straight away. And this was slow. When I first built it with the app, it was quite slow, as in, like, everything I did on the app resulted in loading spinners. Like, I click something, it takes a while, loading spinner, it's loading data, loading spinners everywhere. And that really bugged me. And that's why I wanted to go with something that, doesn't have loading spinners. And that is basically PouchDB plus. Yep. So I wanted to go with something that didn't have any of this syncing, any of these loading spinners. So that's why I went with this. And then I come back to this point, which is unlearn being a developer, because this is exactly what I did. I went more towards code, I went more towards performance, I went more towards optimization when none of this was what I needed to do. So now I guess the opposite point I'll put here is that, yeah, just use a low code slash I wonder what they call it, like a backend as a service platform. Because honestly, I lost a lot of time trying to do things on my own. Because by going with CouchDB plus PouchDB, I had to build a lot of stuff on my own, which uh, which was not necessary if I used something like parse, which I knew existed, but I just didn't use for performance reasons, and it doesn't matter. Like at least from a product point of view, as long as it was manageable, it doesn't really matter. So what I would recommend here is there is next time if I'm doing this, next time if I'm building an app, what I'm looking into going with this Pocket base. It is a mixture of the two worlds because it is both a it is a hosted platform, but it's self-hosted, so you can put it on your own server. But once you put it on your own server, that's pretty much it. You don't need to do any other development. It gives you authentication, social logins, real-time synchronization, even file storage, and also an admin panel for working with all this stuff for free. So you just set it up once on a server somewhere and you can forget about it, more or less. At least that's what they say on the tin. In reality, that's also something I've learned. All of these platforms, they make big promises, like on their web pages, but when you start using it, you learn their real caveats. So I can't um, recommend this because I haven't used it yet, but it is what I would use if I'm going with next. But at least one of these platforms, because I think all of them work well enough that you don't need to worry about setting up things on your own. So the easiest thing is Firebase, if not Firebase, Supabase, if not Supabase, Parse, if not Parse, then Pocket Base. So there is all these platforms. Yeah, don't try to do it on your own. That's basically it. If let me put it here. If it exists, you don't need to build it. Right. Still useful stuff. Am I gone in some directions that are not so clear? Let me know. I will get the lights in the meanwhile so that I'm not sitting in the darkness. All right. What else? So yeah, so that's how the app and the entire story of the app came to be. That I did the wrong thing and I did lean more towards code performance and stuff when I shouldn't. So because of that, I probably spent a month, even two extra, because of my tech stack choice, because I had to do everything from scratch. And that's time you don't need to spend. So don't do it. Like, just go with the existing platform, fight the urge to be a developer and start thinking like a product person, and start thinking like, as you're a product manager. Start thinking, okay, what's how can you deliver this the fastest and with the fastest with the least effort. That's what works initially. That's what you need initially. So I built that app. It took me all in all around 3 months, I think, to bring it from it. There was some sort of app to turn it from there into what you see on the site now. in pure effort, I think it took me about 2 months, 3 months, which is actually sort of fast, I think. And when you're working in a company, um, you really forget the effort it takes to build something from scratch, because you're always working on something that is super small, or a small feature, and there's all these other people behind you doing all these other stuff when it comes to marketing, when it comes to the other features in the app. When you're doing all of it on your own, it takes a lot of time to build it, and that's what I come back to here, is that it takes time to build it up if you're doing it on your own. Another thing to consider doing is hiring people. Hire someone if you can. This is something I haven't done yet, but I will consider very soon, because it's easy to get trapped into doing everything on your own, because yeah, it's also what you're used to. Like, and initially hiring someone is uncomfortable. Even for me, it's uncomfortable. I still haven't done this yet, but I plan to very soon. um, because your time is much, when you start working on your own apps or something, your time is better spent on the product side, on thinking about the product, thinking about how to market it, to promote it, what to build, rather than the actual building. So if you can, and you can also find someone to build it for much, that costs much less than you do, because your time costs money, and you can find someone through these freelancing platforms that will do the same thing for a fraction of the price that it would cost you in time, right? So it's worth it to just get it off as much as I can. Right now, my thinking when it comes to this is, if uh, hold on, brain starting to fog up again. My right now, what I'm thinking is, when you is that I will build the MVP, I will build the prototype, but once I sense that the prototype makes sense, and once I sense that the prototype is of something useful, I'm immediately gonna outsource it. I'm gonna move the development somewhere else, because it's not worth you doing it on your own. It costs money, it does. So this is also something that is a bit tricky, because I don't have that much funds to outsource it yet. But this is something that I'm keeping close on my mind, because I know that me working on the code is maybe a mistake, because it's not the best use of your time. What else? So yeah, so I released the app about a month ago. And that's the other thing, right? I release it, and I how do you release it? The idea that I had is to post on Reddit, and then to post a bit on product hunts, on some random Discord channels, whatever. It's really difficult to find places to post, or it's not difficult, it just takes effort. You need to put some solid effort into finding ways to yeah, so I see the question. You need to hire a freelancer rather than a full-time employee, right? Employment comes with many duties. Yeah, exactly. So you can't really do employment when you're starting out, definitely not. So it's definitely has to be a freelancer. My understanding is that you don't even need to have, like, you can hire a freelancer even without being registered yourself. The freelancer will invoice you and you pay them. So this is like European regulation, but I think you are based in the EU, so it applies to you as well. So you can just hire a freelancer even without a business license, from what I understand. Not legal advice, look that up. But I think, yeah, so it's really trivial to hire a freelancer to like get stuff done. And if you find someone on a platform, you pay them like a lot less than it would take you to do it. So yeah, getting the word out about app is Yeah, this is the problem that happens when you try to solve your own problem and you end up solving something that is in a crowded space, because sometimes when you solve your own problem you still end up doing something that is super popular, like this habit tracker space that I went into. It's like it's very crowded. So this was something I knew. So in the end, what pushed me to finish the app is just pure, I don't know, character traits. um, because I wanted to finish it. I actually started the project, did it for a little while, and then realized that I have no chance of standing out. I have no chance of being discovered. So I sort of paused the project for a while. Um, and then it bugged me that I never finished it, because as an app, I kept using it. Ever since I built it, I have been using it nonstop for almost half a year, maybe more. So it's something that I used, and it came to a point where I had to decide, okay, either I release it and keep hosting it, or I take it down and I switch to something else. Because otherwise, it was just taking all of my mental energy. I was always thinking about, hey, what if I try this? Hey, what if I try to market it like this, or something like that? So if you don't stop a project, if you don't close it, it's always running somewhere in the back of your head. And for me, that bugged me because that was never finished. So I wanted to finish it, even though I knew I had very little chance of standing out on search or anything like this. So I did so. It took me another extra month to build another landing page, uh, bring it out. Um, but yeah, I got it to a point where I can show it to people. So I did. I showed it to as many people as I can. I reached to several of my friends. I reached out on Discord. I got quite some good feedback, which I appreciate. And surprisingly, a few of my friends actually really tried to use it for several days. And this is also a hard threshold, honestly. Like, going from, first of all, it's hard to build something that has any users. Next, it's hard to build something that you yourself will use. Because even me, all of the previous apps I built, I stopped using them. Like, I built them for myself and they just didn't work for me, so I stopped. So building something yourself is difficult on its own. And the hardest part is building something that someone else is willing to use and then getting them to use it. Um, it's really hard. And so I was quite humbled, and I'm quite happy that some of my friends actually started using the app, and they gave me feedback on it, like, hey, it's kind of difficult to do this, and hey, it doesn't really work on mobile and it keeps crashing. So this is what I need to work on. And that comes back to this, because now I'm at a position where I have a small app, I built it, I released it, but I have no users, and the people who try it are frustrated by it, because it's still not friendly to use, still not clear enough. And that brings me back to this, which is, again, it takes time. Like, it's all about iteration, right? It's all about improving it. Iteration, iteration, right? And I am of the faith that if I keep working on this long enough, if I keep listening to what my users tell me, and addressing their feedback and polishing it a little bit and a bit more and a bit more, I can bring it up to a level where it's really good. But I still don't solve the problem of discoverability. I still don't solve the problem of and letting people find it. And this is something I'm actively working on. So all of this is the reasons why I would say building your own thing sounds really glamorous from the outside, but when you go into actually doing it, it's a lot of work, especially if you're going to do it on your own. It's doable. It just takes a lot of time, and this is, I think, something that is not emphasized enough in all these indie hacker podcasts or indie hacker circles, because indie hacker circles, like, there's such a hype, there's such a trend into just showing, hey, I posted it online and I have like 1 million users overnight. And that's what you see on these sites, right? Because that's what people post about. They don't really post about my kind of stuff. And like, I haven't posted any of this, most of this stuff, about my slow process towards getting it. But I know that if I keep doing it, uh, you know, it will, it will work eventually. Um, the app might not, like the specific app that I started might not be the best thing, but in the process of doing that I learned a lot. So now if I'm doing that, if I'm going to build another app, I would do things, completely differently. First, I would not be a developer. I would use an existing platform, and then next I would just investigate like how, whether something actually has a demand. All right. Yep. Still need to wait for the dummy battery to arrive. Uh, well, at least let me see whether I can get my battery switching time to be fast enough, because my camera doesn't have enough batteries to last an entire stream. Where was I? Yeah, iteration. I mean, I just believe that given enough time, this will work, and that's that's what I'm hoping on, really. Um, and that's, I guess, all I could say about this topic. It's a rough outline of everything I've done in the last year or so. It was a lot of things that I've played around with in a way, and I still play around with more things, including this live stream. Which now, this time, I guess the stream was entirely about indie hacking. In the end, it wasn't much about front end development. But yeah, let me know if do you have any questions? Did anything seem unclear, or anything else that you would like me to go over? Or is there like anything that stops you? If why would why is there any reason why you haven't started, or why you haven't tried to build something of your own? Okay. Yeah, the problem is what to build. Um, what to build. So it is a good way to actually solve your own problem. One quote I have read from Peter Levels. Do you know Peter Levels? He's, I guess, probably the most famous indie hacker, I feel. Levels, right? As you said, if the space is too crowded, it's hard to raise above. If it's not crowded, then is the problem real? Yeah, well, this you have to. I think after playing around with this, I think it's better to go into a place that is crowded than to go into a space that doesn't exist. Because a space that is crowded, there is, let's say, scraps. There is like things left over that other platforms haven't seen or haven't dealt with yet. Your job, if you go into such a crowded space, is then, you know, uh, figuring out the things that are not done well by all the other things that are out there, right? And to do that, you have to sort of get into the space one way or another. And if you build something simple, you sort of get into the space like slowly, accidentally even. It's I would say just try, right? You will never have the perfect idea ever. I mean, I have been thinking of doing this, self, like building something of my own for years, So in a way, I was prepared for this. I had some money saved up that I can spend, so I was prepared for this because I had this in mind for a long time. But if I waited for the perfect idea, I would not have gone through and learned the things that I did. And I am now very convinced that, even with the habit tracker thing, like, it's crowded, yes, but I also know that I can get it to work. Like, for example, because I found out all about the keyword tools, I now know that if I specifically target it or specifically use it, describe it as a specific thing, people are more likely to find it over other things when they are searching for that specific thing, right? Like, for example, like time tracking for programmers, right? It's more specific than time tracking and let's say time tracking for students or time tracking for whoever. So you have this area, it's a crowded area, but then you can go in that into a niche in that area, and in the niche you can find another niche. So you can go from, let's say, a programmer to front-end developer or a back-end developer, or like a specific field uh, within that field. So it's all a matter of, I think, just starting and then learning that space, just figuring out what else is in that space, building stuff, and then seeing, okay, how can you move from there. So it's again about, I think, iteration. It's about like starting somewhere and just evolving it slowly into like something that on a very specific people something that a very specific group of people want, um, and then that they want to use your thing for. And then once you find these people, probably by accident actually, once you find them, you can start catering it more and more to them. But to do that, I think you have to start somewhere, to sort of pull you along on this. Because honestly, it takes a long time just to do this. It takes a long time to unlearn being a developer. And if you get used to building, you know how to do this faster. Like now, I would probably like I know parse, for example. So if I'm using parse, I can hack together something in like maybe a couple of days. Whereas, if I didn't try building something, I would not know parse, I would not know any of this. I would have to learn it from scratch, and that would take me longer. Now, if I'm going to build something with CouchDB, I also know that as well. So, and I also have some of the servers tooling written for this, so I can just reuse it. So all of this gets set up if you just start building something, I think. So it's just, I think, I believe that, yeah, you no amount of advice, no amount of books, coaches, mentors can, replace the actual experience of just doing it and learning from experience. um yeah, it seems like something's wrong with my connection, so I hope I'm coming through clear. Yeah, it seems that my connection has some real trouble right now. I hope it comes across. Let me know if it still seems all right on your end. Uh, but yeah, this is everything about, doing money, like, starting your own thing as a front end dev. Um, it's a huge space, right? Indie hacking it's something I think people get addicted to. I believe there are two camps. There are people who want to be indie hackers. Well, maybe three. People who want to be indie hackers, people who started indie hacking and can't stop, and then the people who actually make money from indie hackers, from indie hacking. I am now of the second group, in that, I've started it and I want to keep doing it, and I don't feel like I will ever do anything else. But yeah, it's maybe not also the healthy thing to do. Um, So it really depends on you, I think. But I definitely think that all this, like no amount of reading, no amount of like advice can prepare you for this. Because you, what I also learned is that, you know, you have to, yeah, and I think one last thing that I would add here is, yeah, it goes without say, I guess I have to explicitly mention it, which is, yeah, just take care of yourself. um, because when you start doing something like this, it's very easy to go overboard. It's very easy to spend a lot of time just um, geez, it's now starting to get a bit difficult for my head. When you get started, you get carried away. And for me, when I started, I went overboard. I worked more than I should have. Every day I was working until like 8, 9, maybe sometimes, except the weekends. Initially, I was okay. Initially I at least had the rule: I'm not gonna work on the weekends. I will work maybe longer days on the weekdays, but not on the weekends. So that was my rule, which I've broken a few times. But in general, I stick to that rule. But even that, working every day from like let's say 9 to 9, was in the end too much for me. And a few months in, I started to really burn out, or just it really started getting to my head. Maybe I can't really call it a burnout, and that was not good. It leads you to like when that starts, then when that stress burnout process starts, the first thing you tend to do is try to like cut all contact with people, cut all contact with, I don't know, your partner, your friends, just the things that make you happy. And you get into this, I don't know, at least I got into this headspace where I was like, you know, it doesn't matter, like I'm suffering now, and this suffering is worth it. It's temporary, and I don't need to um yeah, I can suffer for a while. I don't need to, you know, like do fun stuff or keep myself balanced. It's okay. So for a while I let myself go. I ended up working more and more, and that's not the space you want to be, because I almost got to a point where I collapsed entirely, where I just couldn't do this anymore, where I just lost the drive, lost the will to do it, the, you know, the motivation to do it. It's, yeah. And as I said, this is a long game. It's something that will take quite some time to get to a point where you can get it to work, get it to make money, get it to make enough money for you to live off of. To do that, you need to be in good shape for a long time. So it's better to have, in my opinion, take it easy and pace yourself for a longer journey, so that you are able to keep doing it for longer. Because otherwise, you are not gonna, you might not be able to keep doing it. You will end up in situations that are not good to your health and are not good to, yeah, basically not good to you. So if you do ever start, that's one thing I would definitely say recommend is, yeah, take it easy. Like work hard, but know your, find your limits and then stay within them. For me, I discovered that even working until 9 every day uh, was too much. And there was such a difference when I installed this rule: okay, I am gonna stop at 7. 7 is the max. I will get to 7 and then I close it. Whatever I have to do, it can be done tomorrow. And just doing that, just, you know, declaring a clear line saying, yeah, that is it, I'm not going to do any more, made me feel so much better, made me feel so much more relaxed. And that really helped me actually stick with it for longer, maybe as long as I have now. There will still come times when you go back and forth, so you have to really keep a close eye that it doesn't, creep in and you start spending more time on this again. um, but it's something to keep in mind. And I think the hustle culture of, doing, just, yeah, basically killing yourself for a little while, i I used to believe in it, but I don't anymore. I don't think this is what you should be doing. um, the middle ground is the better. I mean, maybe that's just me. Also, that's the other thing. You have to find your own way in this. Um, I personally have not been able to figure it out. Maybe you might, be able to deal with all this kind of, I don't know, strain of these working hours. It also depends on the individual person, I think. But it's always, I think, a good idea to remember to, like, basically take care of yourself. Um, does that make sense? I'm still seeing that my internet connection is struggling to send enough bytes up to YouTube. So let me know if the stream is still coming across, and whether, well, if anything I was saying is useful. Meanwhile, my cursor seems to have gotten itself stuck together with my keyboard, which is interesting. Oh, well. There we go. So it seems like